Welcome to episode 41 of Basics and Beyond, the podcast. Today we are jumping in to talk about the metrics that matter when it comes to noticing the progress you're making toward your health and body composition goals. And most often that scale is lying to you. I'm going to be honest. Come on in, let's have a great conversation about what you should be paying attention to when you're trying to be healthier. Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's good to see you for episode 41. This is a topic, honestly, that I run into all the time with clients, as well as just people I talk to that aren't my clients. And it's something that is really near and dear to my heart. I spent many years of my life focusing on the number on the scale as the only measurement of my progress. Whatever that progress was, whatever the goal was that I was trying to reach, it really was about the number on the scale. And that led me down a truly destructive path. I mean, I was anorexic, I was bulimic, I didn't know it for 2 decades of my life. And that's because there was this expectation of what the scale should say. Like, you can even see it nowadays. I mean, this was a while ago, but I think it's even more prevalent now when we look at influencers, we look at social media, television commercials. It's all about weight loss. And inherently, that term means the number on the scale, because that's the only way we can gauge our weight is if we look at the number on the scale. If we peel back the layers on that, that can do a few things to us that we are unaware of. If we solely focus on weight, we are missing the forest for the trees, to use an old cliche. Truly, we have to look at what is our goal. And for some of us, it is weight loss, right? If we have a lot of weight to lose, then yeah, we want to lose weight. But at the same time, is that truly what we are doing? Is that truly the goal? Because you know what? I had my husband actually said this to me before we were married. He said, when is the number low enough? Because for those of you who've ever experienced this, when you have an eating disorder like anorexia or even bulimia, what happens is you reach your quote desired goal weight, whatever that happens to be. For me, I was like, well, I want to be under 130. Okay. So I hit 130 and I was there for a little bit. I don't know how long, we'll say a couple of weeks just for fun. And then it became, well, I think 128 would feel better. And then I hit 128. And then after a couple of weeks, it went down again. So what happens is that goal, just like every one of our goals that we have, right? We reach the goal and we go, what's the next goal? Well, if your life is focused around weight loss and how your body looks based on other people's perception of it and your perception of it, that goal tends to move down the line in terms of how far can we get that number down? Well, when is that number enough? When does the goal stop? And when he asked me that question, he followed it up with, are you trying to get to zero? And that really, really spoke to me. I think in that moment, that's when I realized this is a problem. And now that I've been working with so many women, so many men, so many people who think it is about weight loss, I've realized that it's not about weight loss. It's about fat loss. It's about looking and feeling in a way that we are comfortable, we are confident, we can move through this world very authentically, genuinely, and comfortably. We want to be comfortable, right? And because of the way we've been marketed to, because of the way people talk and we don't really pay attention, words have power. We think it's about weight loss. And if we think it's about weight loss, the only data point we have is the number on the scale. And that number isn't, it's not one thing. It's not one factor that goes into that number. And that number doesn't give us value. And that number isn't necessarily the goal. honestly, and I used to do CrossFit. I'm actually still a CrossFit coach. I think I'm still certified, and I used to coach CrossFit. But another light bulb moment for me when it came to weight and weight loss and our perception of that, and our perception of that being healthy, was 1 year for the CrossFit Games. They had the females out, and they actually not just had their name, as they, project their performance on the screen. They had their weight and their height. I was like, dang. That was a huge eye opener for me, not in a negative way, because I saw these women doing these amazing things and their physiques were amazing. We're not even going to get into the fact that they probably do PEDs. Just saying, my own opinion. But, you're seeing ladies who are 5'4" doing these amazing things, being very strong, and they weigh like 150 pounds. Now I'm 5'6", 5'7", depending on the day, right? And depending on the measurement tool. And I didn't weigh 154 or 150. And if I weighed 150 pounds, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm so fat, I have to lose weight. But they were strong and they were moving weight and they looked good and they could do a lot of things. And I thought, this really isn't about the weight on the scale. This is about how I can move my body and how my body functions. And if I want to look muscular and I want to quote, look like I work out, that's not necessarily about the weight on the scale. That's about what am I doing in the gym? That's about how am I moving myself? That's about what am I eating? There's so many different layers to that. And in essence, if we want to look differently, it's not about weight loss, it's about fat loss. It's about having our body in a space where our muscular percentage, the percentage of muscle on our body, is in a spot that makes us feel good, perform well in everyday life and in the gym, and makes us look the way we want to look. I was skinny fat for so many years, and I never reached my ultimate goal, right? I always set the goal as a weight. And most of us do that. We set our goal like a number on the scale. But in fact, what we should be measuring is our energy levels, how we feel each day. And those are, I know those aren't really quantifiable, right? They're more like, oh, woo, how do I feel? So if we're looking for hard data to see where we're at in our progress towards our goals and what our goals ultimately need to be, is we need to look at hard data like, and this is what I ask my clients to do, measurements. Do your measurements. Now, those suckers aren't going to change every day, so you're not doing measurements every day. But measurements, I do measurements once a week. That can tell us where we're at in terms of our stress levels, because guess what? If you're stressed out, your body's going to be inflamed, you're going to be puffy, and those measurements are going to change based on stress alone. Truly, right? Or based on, did you eat like a maniac over the weekend and drink lots of alcohol, right? Those measurements are going to change. However, doing measurements once a month, that's a great data point, doing measurements. Another data point that we use instead of weight, like I said, is how do you feel? How do your clothes feel? If you don't want to get a tape measure and do the things, one of those like tape measures that seamstresses use, right? Take pictures. How does your body look differently from week to week? Now that's difficult because we have this weird perception of how we look. We're so self-critical. But honestly, I load my pictures every week and I let my coach tell me, because then I don't have to do that because I don't see much change. But those pictures can also show us how our body is changing if we can take an objective eye on it, right? So it's measurements, your energy levels. It can show you if you're logging your weights in the gym, it's seeing progression in strength over week to week. It's also, how do you feel in your clothes? How do you feel? How do your clothes feel, right? So we need to look at those measurements instead of what the scale says. Can we use the scale as one of the data points? Absolutely. If we were going to rank data points for progress towards our health goals and our fitness goals, and those two things should go together. If I was going to rank them, The number on the scale is the last thing that I look at when I talk to my. So as an example, I was talking to a client last night. He just came back into coaching after a couple of a couple of months off. He was super busy. He's a busy guy. But he's very active. He likes to bike. He likes to play racquetball. He enjoys training. Sometimes we have to make time for that, don't we all? But we've been back together for about a month or so. He did measurements a month ago. He did measurements right before our call this week. And he has dropped 2 inches off of his belly button measurement, his waist, and 1.5 inches off of his hips. That's huge. You want to know what happened to his weight? Nothing. His weight didn't change. And that's the first thing he asked me about. He goes, why is my weight not changing? So we had this conversation, right? This conversation about data points and about the fact that our measurements can tell us more than the weight does, because weight can fluctuate and should fluctuate daily. It does, based on stress levels, based on amount of water you drink, the food you eat, the movement you get, the sleep you get. All of those things, even something as much as environment, right? So if you're in a drier environment and you travel, and all those things impact your weight. Your weight really, if we want to, get a little bit woo-woo, back in the day, we used to say weight is just a measurement of how much pressure the earth is putting on you, which is true. But we did have the conversation about what is important and what we are seeing with him. And what we're seeing with him is his body is dropping inflammation and he's dropping fat, keeping muscle. Because what you hear people say is a pound of muscle, muscle weighs less than fat. That isn't true, or more than fat. I don't even know what people say anymore because it's so not true. I don't even think about it, to be honest with you, because a pound is a pound is a pound. A pound of fat is the same as a pound of feathers, is the same as a pound of muscle. The difference is muscle takes up less space. So even if our scale weight stays exactly the same, we could still be losing fat and gaining muscle mass. How will we know that? We'll know that if we take our measurements, or if we pay attention to how we feel in our clothes, or how our clothes are fitting, or you could do all three. Take your pictures, because you're going to see it there. And isn't that truly what we want? We want to be healthier. Yes, we want to look a certain way. We can't take that out of the equation, though there's a whole faction of people who think we shouldn't even worry about it. Well, that's not true. We're just humans. We want to look a certain way, right? All of us do. At the same time, we have to be honest about what it takes and what that really means, right? Because we can be a size 2 and be really skinny fat and just look sickly. Or we can be a size 2 and have muscle, or be a size 4, have a little, maybe 5-6 more pounds on us and have muscle and look the way we want to look, because we want to look strong. We want to look capable. We want to be confident in our bodies. And how we do that isn't the number on the scale. That number on the scale, if you think about this, now here's something you can do this week. If you are someone who weighs yourself every day, this is going to be easy, but something to think about. The number on the scale doesn't generally make us feel better, feel stronger, feel confident, feel more fit. When we think about feeling stronger, confident, and more fit, we think about, are we moving the weights in the gym, or how is our run going? Are we improving in our run times? Do we feel better when we, bike or do our HIIT exercise? Are we feeling more comfortable in our clothes? When I look in the mirror, can I see a little bit of muscle definition? The number on the scale doesn't do that. We have to focus on the data points that really matter. Your measurements, your pictures, your energy level, how you feel in your clothes. Those are data points that are going to get you closer to your goal. They're going to help you better understand the modifications you need to make so that you can move forward, because we're going to get better data that we can take action on. And those data points are going to help you feel more confident and more in line with your values and your goals. And it's actually going to help you create better goals. So when we think about those data points toward progress, yes, you can use the scale weight, but use that as a last resort. It doesn't even need to be done. Really, what you need to do is think about how you feel, how your clothes feel, what your measurements and your pictures tell you. Those are going to move the needle. They're going to move you in the right direction. Don't get caught up in weight loss. Get caught up in fat loss. Fuel your body for the body that you want. And if you need help with that, let me know. Find me on all the socials. I post about these things all the time. So if you're looking for little tidbits to help you move that needle and look at those correct data points and find that space where you can be more confident and you feel aligned with your goals and values, that's where you can find tidbits. If you want to talk more about it, I am always here. You can book a discovery call. It's free. It's fun. I love talking about this stuff. So share this with your friends. This is important. Honestly, I think we need to talk about this a lot more in social media and with our friends. It's not about scale weight. It's about all those other factors. Go out, make it a great day, rise and redefine your life to fit you.